everybody, it's Dean. Welcome to Bring Back Rock. Today's band comes via listener suggestion. They're a heavy metal band, a power metal band. As a matter of fact, they invented power metal, or at least they're one of the bands that are credited with inventing power metal. They're from New York, but they're really more popular around the world than they are in their home country in the US of A. They've sold about 32 million records worldwide. They're very influential, and they never would have happened if it wasn't for a legitimate icon of heavy metal. It's kind of a cool origin story we're going to get to, tell you a little bit more about them, play you some samples, and I will catch up with you at the end. Right now, let's talk about Manowar. And if you don't know what I just did there, watch a little bit more of the video, and you'll find out. All right, we'll catch up with you at the end. All right, before we start talking about Manowar, we need to kind of set the stage. Singer Eric Adams, no, not the current mayor of New York, this guy had recently given up on his musical dream. He had some of his stuff stolen, and he had it. He was done. It was over. Meanwhile, guitarist Ross "the Boss" Friedman, famous for playing with the Dictators, New York's legendary punk band, the punk band went on hiatus. Important to note that the Dictators never really broke up. They've just been in various states of activity throughout the years. So Ross was on hiatus from the Dictators, and there was another band called Shakin' Street, which was fronted by a female named Fabian, who at one point was linked romantically to Led Zeppelin's Jimmy Page. Now, her band Shakin' Street had recently fired the guitarist. Apparently, not Ross, fired their guitarist, who had apparently sold his guitar to buy heroin, and they fired him. So, they were short of a guitarist, the Dictators were on hiatus, and management put Ross the Boss together with Shakin' Street. Now, Shakin' Street was on tour opening for Black Sabbath, who at the time was being fronted by Ronnie James Dio on the Heaven and Hell tour. This is where things kind of start coming together. One day after soundcheck, Ronnie James Dio approached Ross. Now, I've heard this story told by Ross a couple times. I just want to say this. He says that Ronnie James Dio was like the nicest, kindest person in the entire world. He said, I think I'm a pretty nice guy, but he made me look like Vlad the Impaler. All right, so Ronnie James Dio comes up to Ross and says, Ross, I love the guitar playing. Sounds great. I know about the Dictators, the whole New York scene. There's a guy on our crew who plays bass that you should probably meet. Ross says, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And if Ronnie James Dio tells you need to meet somebody, you got to go meet him. So as soon as they finished talking, he went out in search of Joey DeMaio. Now they talked, they had a lot in common, a lot of the same influences, and they decided to jam. Where they would jam was in Black Sabbath's dressing room using their warm-up amps. They played so loud that when Black Sabbath would stop, they would hear them jamming in the background. What the hell is that? Oh, that's just, Ross and Joey. All right. So they were jamming, having fun. When the tour was over, they went back to New York and started writing this album. They decided they needed a singer, and Joey said, I got the guy. I know the guy. Calls up Eric Adams. Tells him, hey, I got the guitarist. I got the songs. You got to join this band. Eric says, nope, sorry, not interested. Click. Calls him, dude, you got to do this. It's perfect for you. Nope, I told you. I'm done with music. Not interested. Click. Finally, Joey convinces him to at least do the demo with us. Fine, I'll do the demo. So they work up the songs, they record the demo, and they go on their way. A little while later, Joey calls up Eric again and says, we got a record deal. He's like, a record deal, don't even have a band. You got a bass player and a guitarist, and I sang, and I'm not interested. Click. But calls him back. But dude, you gotta do this. We got a record deal. No thanks. I'm done with music. Click. Finally, he convinces him, dude, you've wanted this your whole life. Think about it. If you don't do this, you're going to ask yourself, what if for the rest of your life? He thinks about it and decides, fine, I'll give it one more shot. And Manowar is born. The classic lineup is Eric Adams on vocals, Joey DeMaio on bass, Ross the Boss on guitar, and they had a guy named Donnie Hanzik who started on drums and then came back again in 2009 for a few years. But actually, drummer Scott Columbus is probably the guy you'd be considered for the classic lineup. Their first album, Battle Hymns, came out in 1982, and in 1983 they followed that up with Into Glory Ride. Their third album came out in 1984 called Sign of the Hammer. Now, in addition to being the name of their third album, that's also the name of the hand gesture I showed you earlier in the video. It's made by the fans in the band. It's the right fist over your head and then grabbing your right wrist with your left hand. You see it at the end of the Blow Your Speaker video and any live videos you might see of them. Now, the band was having trouble trying to break in the US, but they were gaining momentum in other parts of the world, especially in England, where they really seemed to embrace them. And that's why their fourth album, which also came out in 1984, is called Hail to England. Funny story, while on tour in England, they had brand new sound system which they called the Wall of Voodoo. Fate's Warning was opening up for them. The sound that their sound system made is called the Divine Wind, by the way. But Fate's Warning was going to open the tour for them. They came and saw the Wall of Voodoo and asked, do we get to play with that? Do we get to have sex with your wife? No, you don't get to play through that. They did get sound, they did get lights, but they did not get to play through the Wall of Voodoo. So they play the first night, and then Fate's Warning disappeared, never to be seen on that tour again. They just didn't show up the next night and never showed up after that. Now in 1987, they released the album Fighting the World. Back on a major label, they had a video on MTV for Blow Your Speakers, and if you look at the cover for that album, you'll see the guy way on the right side giving the sign of the hammer. Also, the album cover was painted by Ken Kelly, who famously also did Kiss's Destroyer. Manowar and Ken Kelly continue working together with him producing their album covers, which are pretty epic. In 1988, they came out with Kings of Metal, and this was the first appearance of their mascot. He's called the Faceless Warrior, or the King of Metal, and if you notice, he appears on almost all their records after that, and you never see his face. There's a reason for this. You, the listener, are supposed to project your face onto him. You are the hero. You have the power inside. That is you. It's kind of a cool idea. So the Faceless Warrior was first seen on Kings of Metal. In 1992, the album The Triumph of Steel was released, and this was a big change for the band because Ross the Boss was no longer there, and neither was drummer Scott Columbus. They were replaced by David Schenkel on guitar and Kenny Earl Edwards, known as Rhino, on drums. Couple other quick facts about Manowar. Their motto is Death to False Metal. They've sold about 32 million records worldwide. They have set the record for the loudest heavy metal concert. Ross the Boss says they were cruising at about 135 decibels usually, but they set the Guinness Book of World Records for loudest concert, and they broke their own record twice. They also have the record for the longest concert, clocking in at 5 hours and 1 minute in 2008. Michelangelo Badio is the current guitar player. You probably know him most likely from Nitro. So Ross the Boss Friedman has played with so many people. I'm not even going to get into it. He's currently Ross the Boss Band, and he's doing some stuff with the Dictators again. Something else interesting, singer Eric Adams is a big outdoors guy, big hunter, wrote a book called String Theory for Bow Hunters, which is kind of a clever title. All right, enough talking about Manowar. Let's hear some samples, and I will catch up with you at the end of the video. One more quick thing before we start with the music samples. I should really mention that Manowar has never stopped doing their thing. They're still releasing music, still doing shows. They've had lineup changes, but Eric and Joey are kind of the constants in that band now. So the albums I talked about are not the end of the Manowar story. They're still out there doing their thing. All right, now let's go ahead and get to the music samples. right, so that was a little bit on Manowar. Now, where can you find them? Actually, all their music is pretty much available to buy, to purchase at normal prices. You can also stream. Everything is available on streaming, I think. And if you kind of want some Manowar in your collection and you're not sure where to start, there is a 3-album box set that you can get for about $15. It has some of their 3 most popular records, Fighting the World, Kings of Metal, and The Triumph of Steel. I think that's album 5, 6, and 7. So you can get like 3 albums for $15. It's like a little box set they have. So that's probably a pretty good place to start. All right, I just want to say thanks to everybody who spends any time here. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch up with you in the next episode. Thanks.